I doubt it.
Hi guys, it's Lisa Unger, and I'm super excited to be here with the amazing Sally Hepworth. Hi, Sally.
Hello, it's so nice to be here.
It's so exciting. So Sally is the best-selling author of, I think in your bio it said 6 novels, but I'm thinking it's 7 now with The Good Sister coming out today.
Yes,
Yes. So
yes, well done. I've got to edit my website.
I was like trying to do the math. I know you always have to think about these things, but The Good Sister comes out probably, we are recording this on the 12th, so probably you're going to be seeing this a couple days after the book has gone on sale. But The Good Sister goes on sale like now-ish. So definitely run out and grab it. I have just been listening to it on audio, just a little audio excerpt, because I don't have the book yet. But it's fantastic, of course. Sally, kind of like me, she's like very into like deep dives into family and family relationships and identity and what makes us who we are, and the kind of things that we do to each other. So I'm very excited to just talk about everything that we want to talk about today. So welcome, Sally. Thank you for joining me from Melbourne, Australia.
It's my absolute pleasure. I can't wait to deep dive either.
So we met virtually. Do you remember at
yeah.
It was a trade show. Do you remember which trade show it was? I don't. Was it ALA?
I don't. One of them.
It was ALA maybe?
Might have been ALA.
No, anyway, so we met and it was one of those things though where you didn't really get to talk to each other. It was just sort of your thing and I listened, and then I did my thing and everybody, but it was the screen was blank, so there was no like chit chat. And
it's very impersonal, those things, aren't they?
Yeah,
when you see an author next to you and you just want to wave and say,
you're like, oh, I've been wanting to meet. Yeah, so it was a little bit like, and you can't really, and I felt like that one in particular, it was just me on the screen, like everybody else kind of went dark when I was talking. So I kind of felt like I was just talking to myself and my Labradoodle Jack, who's back there.
I know, and muted as well. Everyone was muted, and so you couldn't even get that kind of laugh or any kind of indication that anyone was out there. It takes a whole new set of skills, doesn't it? That kind of thing.
It really does. You really have to be used to like talking to yourself.
Yeah. Which we probably kind of are as authors a little bit, but who knew that we were prepping for that?
Yeah, exactly. And then a couple of months later, I saw just randomly on Instagram, because of course we started following each other after that, and I saw that I was very interested to see that your husband, it's Christian, is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That he had left his job and come to work, as we call it, work for the corporation, as we call it at our house.
I love that.
He came to work for the corporation. I thought that's interesting because Jeff and I did the same thing, and I think it's just over 15 years ago now that he did it, which is.
And I think that is definitely success. And just before, when we were talking, you said no one's been carried out in a body bag yet, which is really the best definition for success.
Right. It's
15 years down the track.
It's really the only definition of success.
That's it. That's the gold standard.
So
I don't know if we're going to be as successful as that. We will see. It'll make a novel if not.
Exactly. I was just going to say fodder for another novel, if not for sure. So
I'll write it from prison.
Yeah, exactly. Do they have Son of Sam laws in Australia? Can you profit off of your crime over there? I don't know.
I'm going to have to look into the fine print before I do anything.
Good thinking.
Thanks for the heads up. You've thought about this.
I have, actually. Um, so just maybe you want to, let's just jump right into it. So what led to what led to this decision for you? Like, what made you decide to have him come home and be like sort of the, I don't know what we call it. I don't know what we call it here. I call him the guy in the chair. He's the guy in the chair.
Well, yep.
Yeah.
That would work for us, except that Christian is rarely in a chair. He's always walking around. But we call him CEO of the home.
Yeah.
And I think that, although I think he's probably, I'm still the CEO, I think he's probably the COO. You know, he manages the day-to-day operations of both our family and also the tech of my authorly world, and basically the things I don't want to have to do.
Yes.
But he also manages all the returning of online shopping that I don't want to have to do myself, which is probably my favorite thing that he does.
This is exactly what Jeff does.
It's life-changing.
Like literally his role, like exactly.
And Christian was formerly an accountant. Well, I guess he's still an accountant, but that meticulous nature of which he had has been able to be applied to numerous things in the home. But I'll step back. When did we decide this? It was one of those things, for some reason, because he was earlier in our marriage the one who was the big earner. He was the one that was, his job moved us around the world, and I was the trailing spouse, who always worked but wasn't the primary breadwinner. Right. I guess early in our relationship, I probably assumed that was how it would be, and I would take time off to have babies and then go back to work. But the goal for me was always to write a book, and he wasn't saying what his goal was, what the dream was. And I did stay home with the baby. My son is 12 today; it's his birthday, and then I went on to have 2 daughters, and I stayed at home with them. But from the moment that I had my first baby, Christian was more involved. He took a step back from work, and it was very clear that he just wanted to be at home with the kids, even though that wasn't something that we could afford. And that was great for me, because I then got to really lean into the writing. I got my first book published. I got my second book published. He was never able to take a paternity leave per se and take a lot of time off with the kids, but he took his foot off the pedal of that kind of corporate ladder. Right. And so then I think it was about 3 or 4 years ago, our baby was, Clementine is 4 now, so she was really little. He was made redundant from one of his jobs. And so he had a 3-month period where he wasn't able to work, gardening leave per se. And he took over. He became a full-time dad. I worked full-time, where prior to that I'd done a bit of, balancing of writing, mothering, all of that. And we both loved it. He loved being with the kids. He's really good at some of it. There are parts of it that I think we could step this up. But but he's so good at, he plays with the kids. Yeah. He folds. This is the accountant, and he folds the laundry and then rolls it up in little, strange things. Yeah. But he loved it, and he loved being organized. He loved the role of being at home and helping me. So fast forward to, last year, I suppose, we had a year at home. He was still working, but he was much more on with the kids than I was. He said, I want to do this. I want to be at home. I want to, help you. I want to be with the kids. And so I said, well, why don't you just do it? And this year he went back to work in January. He came home the first day that he'd been back in the office, and he said, I'm going to quit tomorrow. And I said, all right. And he has. And look, we haven't looked back. I mean, to be clear, I have thought about murdering him, but no more often than usual, just like a standard once a week kind of thing. And there's a lot more appreciation that I don't have to return my own online shopping now. So that is, I would say, like you, it's been a success so far.
It's exactly, so when we so I say it was the same for us when I first started writing. Though, I had my first book published right after we were married. And so, and he was working in IT at the time. So he had this sort of big job. And I was writing, and I wrote 4 books, and they were published by St. Martin's Press. And he was still the main breadwinner, and I was, really just starting out. I didn't really, the first books were published very small. So I was just sort of trying to, find my way as a writer. I'd been a writer all my life, but like as a published writer, I was trying to find my way. And then when I published Beautiful Lies, which was like back in 2006, like 105 years ago, it coincided with the birth of my daughter in December of 2005. And then come April 2006, all 3 of us went on the road. We did how you do 12 cities in 14 days or whatever it winds up being, with a 4-month.
Wow.
And at that time,
oh my goodness,
it was crazy. Like I look back at it now and I think, how did I do that? I don't know. Like a 4-month-old breastfeeding baby. So we, from that point on, when we came back from that, he was still working, but we just started to feel like, I wasn't really hardwired to, have a nanny or a sitter. So I was waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning to work before he went to the office. And then I was like trying to work during nap time. And then, when he got home, and then it just became like, it gets to a point where you're just hiring more and more people to do, the things that you really sort of want to be doing yourself in a sense. And so that's what we made the decision then for him to leave his IT job, because I had already like sort of formed this corporation. I had already like sort of, set him up as an employee. I got him health insurance, all this stuff. So we've been kind of slowly putting the building blocks there, because it was always, he worked in IT, but I was always the one with the dream. And then it became his.
Yeah, exactly.
Too. And that's how that's how we made the decision for him to sort of come home and be home. And the plan always was that my golden creative hours are in the morning, so that was my time to write. And then by the time lunchtime came around, it was a time for shifts, and I was on with our daughter, and he was doing the other work, the tech, all the social media, all the tech stuff, the accounting, all, all the COO duties. And at that time, I don't think there was as much online shopping to return, but now, of course, that's
it's a full-time job, mail clerk.
My God, it's so nice. You can just pack it off and be like, can you take it? And he does. And so, yeah. And that was, it was 15 years ago, which, is a long time to be working together, living together, parenting together. And, we still like each other, which is such a blessing.
Yeah. What's interesting to me is that we have just made this decision now, and the interest in it from people, and the questions that we have been asked, and the surprise around the decision for him to leave his job, which was a very good job, has sort of struck me. And so, I thought, this isn't that strange, surely, that, when you think about how many women, stay home to support their husband's career, I was shocked. And so I can only imagine, what was the response that you got 15 years ago?
Well, it was, I think, I'm trying to think back, those many years ago, into the Stone Age.
Through the blur.
I think that I think that people didn't even really maybe notice, I think that there wasn't, so when it was, there wasn't the same scrutiny that there is now, of course, because it's not, social media was not the force back then that it is now. There was really none of this.
Yeah.
We were just starting out with, at that time, or just like sort of starting out with MySpace or whatever whatever it was. And then, slowly the evolution has been to the degree that, we're all kind of living our lives more or less online, in this really strange way, so there wasn't a lot of scrutiny. And I did have the urge to I did have the urge to write about it, essays and such. But whenever the topic came up, people just sort of felt like, oh, well, I would hear, oh, this is not relatable. Like, it's almost as though people didn't want to hear about you as the main breadwinner and your husband in a, so-called support role. Like, there was something about it that people didn't think anybody could even relate to that. And because I was like, same as you, I thought, surely I'm not the first person to do, or that we're not the first couple to make the decision that, hey, you've got the dream, you're making, X amount of money, I want to be in support of that. Surely we're not the only couple that made that decision. But at that time it was just sort of like, and again, it wasn't, like, it wasn't necessarily maybe relatable to people enough to ask the questions, or like maybe we didn't even really talk about it that much, because it was just sort of a thing, and the only people who knew were like family and friends. So,
I mean, there is obviously it's a privilege to be able to exist on one salary,
of course,
no matter who is earning it. And I'm, aware of that, but there is no doubt that the fact that it's the woman earning it makes it a little bit different, even today. And I found that a little bit, I found it to be more the case than I thought it would be. That was an eye-opener for me. And
you got a lot of
a little.
Yeah.
I did. And a little bit of the relatable comment is interesting because it's probably, it's not the norm. I think we would find that more today, more men are still, we know this from the stats, are earning more money, and thus, the old traditional man working harder, women balancing the whole thing is more common, and thus it's more relatable. But I think that in my immediate circle with my friends and family, this is not an unusual arrangement. We have many good friends whose a lot of Christians' friends, wives or girlfriends or partners are the money earner. And so to him, it was like, woohoo, here I am, now I'm the supporting husband. I'm in the club. But in the wider world, I mean, I kind of felt proud of it. I felt like, this is cool. I'm really happy that my daughters can see this arrangement, which isn't typically the norm. I'm proud of the success that I've had that's allowed us to be able to do it for me, but also for Christian, because this is what he wants to do. So it's such a balancing act, isn't it, between knowing what is privilege, but also knowing what is just being a little bit managing other people's discomfort.
Yeah. And also I think it's something that is unique to the couple, right? I mean, not every man would be willing or able or interested or want to stay home and take on that sort of lead domestic role, for lack of a better word. Like we've always kind of said, like, I'm the I'm the main breadwinner, but I'm also the primary parent. I've also been the one to do, like the Valentine's Day cards and help with homework and all that stuff. And when I've traveled for work, all over the world, Jeff and my daughter Ocean have almost always come with me, so we've always had this. And often my parents would then fly and meet us in various places so that like Jeff could take care of me and they could take care of my daughter. So it was like this incredibly messy, like, entourage
family affair.
Like, it's just a complete disaster, right? And yet, I wouldn't have done
I
it
love that.
anyway. You know, like I wouldn't have lost that opportunity for my daughter to see me being somebody
Yes.
who had a dream since childhood, and then basically just, you know, worked my ass off to make it happen, and then found a partner who wanted to share that dream and be, you know, there's Jack.
Oh, Jack. Sweet pea.
And you know, share that dream and like make it a reality for our whole family. So that's
Yes.
a privilege for sure. It's a blessing, but it's also a lot of, you know, it's also probably not every couple could do it. You know, you have to be that kind of,
Agree.
you know, to have that kind of relationship. But I still get a lot of like from people like, you know, especially like sometimes like older women, they'll say things like, "Oh, you're so lucky that your husband is supportive of your career."
Oh.
Which always I'm like,
Isn't it?
but other layers.
I always think, well, yeah. Let's not go into that. I've had those comments too.
Wait, okay, never mind. Right? Like, you're right. Thank you so much. That's what I usually say.
Thank you. I get you're so lucky that Christian's such an involved parent.
Yes.
And I think because unlike you, Christian is the primary parent now, and I kind of think, well, yes, he is an involved. I mean, he was even before when he was the secondary parent, as it were, but they are his children. Right. And you know, I don't think it's luck. I think that is just a fair way that we manage things. But we're evolving, aren't we, with every generation of what's acceptable. So. And
I think we are. I mean, and I don't think, you know, and I think that maybe men in previous generations, even if it had been something that they wanted to do, that they might not necessarily feel empowered to do it, or feel like they're you know, they were being compromised in some way by, you know, giving up whatever role. Like, you know, my husband worked in, you know, a huge IT job, and, you know, it was something that he did. Like, it was a job that he chose, as, you know, like for the money, basically, you know. There's no like love or passion.
It's not the dream.
There was no dream involved in it. But when we got married, and like my dream became his dream, and we always kind of think of it as like a, you know, like a home, like a family run business. And that's kind of what it's become.
I mean, you're describing our story too. So it definitely does become a family dream. And I think at our stage, Christian is still, his role is more with the kids than helping me. We have one that's not started school yet, and the other two are in primary school. And so that takes up the majority of his time, but it will eventually, and the kids too, as you say. I mean, I would love to take them around the world with me, but I cannot even imagine. If you've met my 4-year-old Clementine, it would it wouldn't work.
It doesn't work. It doesn't work.
Even
with one, it does not work. I'll just put it to you like that. Don't try it.
But maybe one day.
You can take one of them with you.
But aren't we lucky? You know, and I acknowledge with luck comes all of the other stuff and the hard work. But isn't it? It's a wonderful, exciting thing when we do get to realize our dream. We have, you know, the support, and we can make it this family affair. It's just, you know, I feel really lucky to be able to do that.
It's definitely a blessing. I mean, I definitely feel so much gratitude that we were, you know, that we have been able to do what we've been able to do over all these years. You know, I'm currently working on my 20th novel right now. Which, I mean, like, wow. And I was just thinking today, like, you know, does anybody remember how to do this? Like, from book to book, every time feels like the first time, you know, like every time feels like, you know, it's always, and I hope it never feels any other way, to be honest, because I feel like if you ever like show up at the keyboard and you just just arrive there with supreme confidence. I think that's probably the day you should hang it up.
Oh, 100%. And it's funny, I was reading about a course, I think I saw it on Instagram for authors, and about how to write a novel. And I forwarded it to my girlfriend, who's also a published author, and I said, we should go to this course. And she said,
I think I need to sign up for that course.
Yeah. She said, I don't know, Sal, I think this might be for, unpublished. And I've never given up this idea that, and I think any author, if we were somewhere, no matter how many books you've published, and someone started talking about how to do it, we'd all chime in and listen, wouldn't we? Because I mean, I am just plagued by this idea that a way of doing it exists, and I just haven't discovered it yet. And once I do, it will make my life much easier and my novels much faster to write and better. And so I haven't figured it out. If you have a way of doing it, I will pay you money to teach me.
Yeah, I was going to ask you if you figure it out, definitely let me know.
I mean, for me, I do it differently every time. And I do, at the moment, I'm in a very structured period. I use an Excel spreadsheet, but in the past I have opened a blank page and just written with nothing more than a story question. I've used Scrivener. Do you know Scrivener? That it's like a software program.
I have never used that, but I hear good things about it.
Some people are wild about it. I bought it and used it in the hope that it would, teach me something. And I used it for one novel. It was good.
Yeah.
Ultimately, whatever I try to do, whether it be a spreadsheet or a winging a prayer, I end up doing it kind of the same way, which is through lots of drafts and lots of messy dumps of things that I think might belong in there, but I'm not totally sure how or where, and then just moving things around like a puzzle until it vaguely resembles a novel.
Yeah.
But I definitely don't recommend it. Like it's I'm never going to teach a course about it.
Wow, Jack is like, what's up, buddy? Find a spot. Find your spot.
Oh, Jack, he's trying to tell us how to write a novel.
Yeah,
tell us, Jack.
Dig and dig and dig until you get where you need to. Oh my God.
I mean, he's not wrong.
We're just gonna ignore him because he's doing this on purpose, because he's not
happy.
He should settle in about 1 second. I don't. There we go.
Oh, there he goes.
He wanted that pillow out of his way, I guess. Yeah, I mean, I've always things have always kind of happened for me in the same way. Like I usually have, like, there's like one moment or like a germ or a seed that, sort of gets me obsessed about something. And then it leads me to a swath of research about that topic. And then the best way I can explain it is that if it connects with something, I think it has to connect with something deeper that's going on inside me. And then I start to hear a voice or voices, and I just follow those voices through my manuscript. And that's literally how I've written every single book. And I just, it's almost like I write for the same reason that I read, because I want to know what's going to happen to the people who I had. And I've done it that way every single time.
Well, that is just a beautiful explanation of how to do it. I'm just going to copy that next time someone else.
It's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine.
That sounds beautiful.
Yeah. So, yeah, and I just always, that's always how it's been for me. I've always just had these, I always feel like it's there. The story's already there. I just have to find it. I just have to move the debris away and figure out what it is what these voices are trying to tell me, or what I'm trying to tell myself, or what question I'm trying to answer about people, or what makes people who they are, and why they do the things they do. And it's just it's like basically an ongoing obsession that I have, you know.
Yeah, I think that is the closest I can come to what happens for me is that someone said once it's a bit like getting dinosaur bones out of the ground, you know, and you have to kind of get the bones out, and then you have to get out the tools, you know, and polish them down and arrange them until they look like a dinosaur, you know, and the ones that you see in a museum.
Right.
And that's kind of what I feel. My first drafts of these gnarly, ugly, covered in mud, not totally sure what's there yet kind of thing. And then all the drafting is about, as you said, clearing away the debris, polishing, you know, really taking stock of what is there and putting it into a structure which will kind of work.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think that it's, I think to approach it with a healthy level of awe every time is appropriate.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's the right thing. And also to kind of stay in that beginner's mind, you know, like I still feel like the thing that, you know, gets me out of bed every morning is the idea that I can be a better writer today than I was yesterday. And I believe that every single day. I believe that.
Yeah. Oh gosh. See, I have the opposite. I wake up and think, I think I'm getting worse at this.
Oh no.
But I'm just gonna hope that it's all in my mind.
It was yesterday. God darn it. I keep trying, but it's oh well. I guess it's just keep trying.
Yeah. Well, you know, we've got necessity on our side, don't we? Because we're the only breadwinners in the household, so that keeps me getting up every morning.
Your husband's going to come up and start cracking the whip, like, come on.
Someone has to go to work.
I know. God forbid they should have to go back. So do you want to give us the little elevator speech about the good sister? Tell us a little bit, because we're gonna
I have one here that I prepared earlier.
Yeah, it's gonna be, as I was saying, it was on sale. It's on sale on April 13th. By the time this airs, we'll probably be a couple days past that. So it's available now. So let's hear about The Good Sister.
Yeah. So The Good Sister, as you might guess from the title, is about sisters, and it's about twin sisters, Fern and Rose. And if you look closely, you can see that there are roses and also ferns in the garden, which I thought was
beautiful.
Beautiful little yes, I know, I love it. So Fern and Rose are adults now. They're 28, but they have survived a really tumultuous childhood together, which we flash back on throughout the book. But now at the beginning of the book, they are leading really functional, really good lives. Fern is a single librarian. She's on the autism spectrum, although she hasn't been diagnosed. And she has sensory processing disorder, which is extreme sensitivity to light and sound. And this causes her to lead a kind of insular life and really rely quite heavily on her sister Rose to lead that life. And so then we have Rose, the twin sister, who is the responsible sister, who has a great job and a house with a white picket fence and plans to have a baby as soon as she can. And this story really kicks off when Fern discovers that Rose can't have the baby that she yearns for. And so Fern, unbeknownst to Rose, decides that she's going to try and have a baby for her. And that leads Fern on this kind of journey to open her world from this very narrow world that she's been living, to find a man to have that baby with and to have this baby for her sister. But in doing so, it leads her back through that childhood, that really difficult time that they had together, and it gets her looking at this secret that they have been sharing all their life and analysing if what she believes happened is what actually happened. And it looks at, you know, the different ways we remember things, the perspectives we have and why. And there is some pretty sinister twists and turns that take place in there too. But ultimately it's heartwarming, and it's married with the kind of sinister undertones of a thriller. So that is The Good Sister.
Ooh, I
And
can't
yes,
wait.
out on the 13th.
I'm very excited to dive in. I was enthralled by the audio excerpt that I got to listen to, and I can't wait to read it. And I'm sure it's going to be a huge success. I know everyone's going to love it, and I think if you want to learn more about Sally, which I'm sure you do, is it just sallyhepworth.com? Is that it?
It's sallyhepworthauthor.com, or you can follow me on Instagram at Sally Hepworth. That's where I'm I'm on Facebook too, but Instagram's my first love. So I am always on there, and you'll find out about everything there first.
Perfect. Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Sally, for joining us from Melbourne, Australia, which I have a lot of family in Melbourne. I have
Do you?
I do. I have an aunt, an uncle, two cousins and their children, and I've been to Melbourne a number of times over in my life. So yeah, it's such a beautiful city. And how is it there? You guys were on lockdown for quite a long time, but you're open up now.
Things are great. Last year, Melbourne really got the brunt of the lockdown, and we spent most of last year in quite a strict stage 4 lockdown.
Yes.
But this year we've really knocked it on the head Australia-wide, and we're pretty much open Australia-wide now and living our lives, but unable to travel or have people come here. So
crazy.
Yeah. Hopefully soon.
We're I think hopefully everybody's moving towards, I don't know, I guess the new normal. Whatever that winds up being. I don't know if it's going to go back to the way it was, but we'll see.
We will see.
And I look forward to connecting with you again, either virtually or in the real world one of these days.
In person. Yes. I know. I hope so. That would be so fun.
Sally, thank you so much.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.